An endorheic basin is a closed drainage basin that retains water and allows no outflow to other external bodies of water, such as rivers or oceans, but converges instead into lakes or swamps, permanent or seasonal, that equilibrate through evaporation. Such a basin may also be referred to as a closed terminal basin or as an internal drainage system. Normally, water that has accrued in a drainage basin eventually flows out through rivers or streams on the Earth's surface by underground diffusion, through permeable rock, ultimately ending up in the oceans. However, in an endorheic basin, rain that falls within it does not flow out but may only leave the drainage system by evaporation and seepage. The bottom of such a basin is typically occupied by a salt lake or salt pan. Endorheic regions, in contrast to exorheic regions which flow to the ocean in geologically defined patterns, are closed hydrologic systems. The surface waters drain to inland terminal locations where the water evaporates or seeps into the ground, having no access to discharge into the sea. Endorheic water bodies include some of the largest lakes in the world, such as the Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea, the world's largest saline inland sea. Most endorheic basins are arid, although there are many notable exceptions, such as the Valley of Mexico, the Lake Tahoe region, and various regions in the Caspian Basin. Endorheic basins can be massively and rapidly affected by climate change and excessive water abstraction. An exorheic lake naturally remains at an overflow level, so water flow into the lake may be many times more than is needed to maintain its present size. In contrast, an endorheic basin does not have enough inflow that it overflows to the ocean, so any loss of water intake can immediately begin to shrink the lake. In the past century or so, many very large endorheic lakes have been reduced to small remnants of the former size, as with Lake Chad and Lake Urmia, or gone completely as have Tulare Lake and Fucine Lake. The same effect was seen at the end of the Ice Age, in which many extremely large lakes in the Sahara and western United States disappeared or were drastically reduced, leaving behind desert basins, salt pans and remnant saline lakes. Endorheic lakes. Endorheic lakes are bodies of water that do not flow into the sea. Most of the water falling on Earth finds its way to the oceans through a network of rivers, lakes and wetlands. However, there is a class of water bodies that are located in closed or endorheic watersheds where the topography prevents the drainage to the oceans. These endorheic watersheds are often called terminal lakes or sink lakes. Endorheic lakes are usually in the interior of a land mass, far from an ocean in areas of relatively low rainfall. The watersheds are often confined by natural geologic land formations such as a mountain range, cutting off water egress to the ocean. The inland water flows into dry watersheds where the water evaporates, leaving a high concentration of minerals and other inflow erosion products. Over time, this input of erosion products can cause the endorheic lake to become relatively saline, since the main outflow pathways of these lakes are chiefly through evaporation and seepage. Endorheic lakes are usually more sensitive to environmental pollutant inputs than water bodies that have access to oceans, as pollution can be trapped in them and accumulate over time. Occurrence. Endorheic regions can occur in any climate but are most commonly found in desert locations. In areas where rainfall is high, riparian erosion will generally carve drainage channels, or cause the water level in the terminal lake to rise until it finds an outlet. breaking the enclosed Endorheic hydrological system's geographical barrier and opening it to the surrounding terrain. The Black Sea was likely such a lake, having once been an independent hydrological system before the Mediterranean Sea broke through the terrain separating the two. Lake Bonneville was another such lake, overflowing its basin in the Bonneville flood. Kalahari Lake in Oregon is normally cut off from drainage to the ocean, but has an outflow channel to the Mala River that is normally dry, but flows in years of peak precipitation. Examples of relatively humid regions in Endorheic basins often exist at high elevation. These regions tend to be marshy and are subject to substantial flooding in wet years. The area containing Mexico City is one such case, with annual precipitation of 850 millimeters and characterized by waterlogged soils that require draining. Endorheic regions tend to be far inland, with the boundaries defined by mountains or other geological features that block their access to oceans. Since the inflowing water can evacuate only through seepage or evaporation, dried minerals or other products collect in the basin, eventually making the water saline and also making the basin vulnerable to pollution. Continents vary in their concentration of endorheic regions due to conditions of geography and climate. Australia has the highest percentage of endorheic regions at 21%, while North America has the least at 5%. Approximately 18% of the Earth's land drains to endorheic lakes or seas, the largest of these land areas being the interior of Asia. In deserts, water inflow is low and loss to solar evaporation high, drastically reducing the formation of complete drainage systems. Closed water flow areas often lead to the concentration of salts and other minerals in the basin. Minerals leached from the surrounding rocks are deposited in the basin, and left behind when the water evaporates. Thus, endorheic basins often contain extensive salt pans. These areas tend to be large, flat hardened surfaces and are sometimes used for aviation runways or land speed record attempts, because of their extensive areas of perfectly level terrain. Both permanent and seasonal endorheic lakes can form in endorheic basins. Some endorheic basins are essentially stable, climate change having reduced precipitation to the degree that a lake no longer forms. Even most permanent endorheic lakes change size and shape dramatically over time, often becoming much smaller or breaking into several smaller parts during the dry season, as humans have expanded into previously uninhabitable desert areas. The river systems that feed many endorheic lakes have been altered by the construction of dams and aqueducts. As a result, many endorheic lakes in developed to developing countries have contracted dramatically, resulting in increased salinity, high concentrations of pollutants, and the disruption of ecosystems. Even within endorheic basins, there can be non-contributing, low-lying areas that trap runoff and prevent it from contributing to flows downstream during years of average or below-average runoff. In flat river basins, non-contributing areas can be a large fraction of the river basin, e.g. Lake Winnipeg's basin. A lake may be endorheic during dry years and can overflow its basin during wet years, e.g. the former Tulare Lake. Because the Earth's climate has recently been through a warming and drying phase with the end of the ice ages, many endorheic areas such as Death Valley that are now dry deserts were large lakes relatively recently. During the last ice age, the Sahara may have contained lakes larger than any now existing. Notable endorheic basins and lakes. See also List of endorheic basins. Antarctica. Endorheic lakes in Antarctica are located in the McMurdo Dry Valleys, Victoria Land, the largest ice-free area in Antarctica. Don Juan Pond in Wright Valley is fed by groundwater from a rock glacier and remains unfrozen throughout the year. Lake Vanda in Wright Valley has a perennial ice cover, the edges of which melt in the summer, allowing flow from the longest river in Antarctica, the Onyx River. The lake is over 70 meters deep and is hypersaline. Lake Bonny is in Taylor Valley and has a perennial ice cover and two lobes separated by the Bonny Regal. The lake is fed by glacial melt and discharge from Blood Falls. Its unique glacial history has resulted in a hypersaline brine in the bottom waters and fresh water at the surface. Lake Hoare in Taylor Valley is the freshest of the Dry Valley lakes, receiving its melt almost exclusively from the Canada Glacier. The lake has an ice cover and forms a moat during the austral summer. Lake Frixell is adjacent to the Ross Sea in Taylor Valley. The lake has an ice cover and receives its water from numerous glacial meltwater streams for approximately 6 weeks out of the year. Its salinity increases with depth. Asia. Much of Western and Central Asia is a giant endorheic region made up of a number of contiguous closed basins. The region contains several basins and terminal lakes, including the Caspian Sea, the largest lake on Earth. A large part of Eastern Europe, drained by the Volga River, is part of the Caspian's basin. Lake Urmia in western Azerbaijan province of Iran. The Aral Sea, whose tributary rivers have been diverted, leading to a dramatic shrinkage of the lake. The resulting ecological disaster has brought the plight faced by internal drainage basins to public attention. Lake Balkhash in Kazakhstan, Issyk-Kul Lake, Sun-Kul Lake, and Chatak-Kul Lake in Kyrgyzstan. Lop Lake, in the Tarim Basin of China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The Dzungarian Basin in Xinjiang, separated from the Tarim Basin by the Tiyun Shan. The most notable terminal lake in the basin is the Manis Lake. The Central Asian Internal Drainage Basin in southern and western Mongolia contains a series of closed drainage basins, such as the Kyrgyz-Nur Basin, the Uvizn-Nur Basin, and the Pu'er-Uinta River Basin. Qaidam Basin in Qinghai Province, China, as well as nearby Qinghai Lake. Sistan Basin covering areas of Iran and Afghanistan. Pangong Tso on the China-India border. Many small lakes and rivers of the Iranian plateau, including Gavuni Marshes and Namak Lake. Other endorheic lakes and basins in Asia include the Dead Sea, the lowest surface point on Earth and one of its saltiest bodies of water, lies between Israel and Jordan. Samba Lake in Rajasthan, northwestern India. Lake Van in eastern Turkey. Sabkar al-Jabal, extensive salt flats and a 100 square kilometers lake in Syria. Solar Lake, Sinai, near the Israeli-Egypt border. Lake Tuz, in Turkey, in south part of central Anatolia region. Sawa Lake in Iraq, in Mardana Governorate. Australia being very dry and having exceedingly low runoff ratios due to its ancient soils, has many endorheic drainages. The most important are Lake Eyre Basin, which drains into the highly variable Lake Eyre and includes Lake Frome, Lake Torrens, to the west of the Flinders Ranges in South Australia. Lake Corangamite, a highly saline crater lake in western Victoria. Lake George, formerly connected to the Murray-Darling Basin. Africa. Large endorheic regions in Africa are located in the Sahara Desert, the Kalahari Desert, and the East African Rift. Chad Basin, in the north and center of Africa. It covers an area of approximately 2.434 million square kilometers. Qattara Depression, in Egypt. Chott Melria, in Algeria. Chott El Djerid, in Tunisia. The Okavango River, in the Kalahari Desert, is part of an endorheic basin region which also includes the Okavango Delta, Lake Ngami, the Nata River, and a number of salt pans such as Makadi Gadi Pan. Etosha Pan in Namibia's Etosha National Park, Lake Turkana in Kenya, whose basin includes the Omo River of Ethiopia, Lake Chulwa in Malawi, Afar Depression in Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Djibouti, which contains the Awash River. Some Rift Valley lakes, such as Lake Abajata, Lake Tubahia, Lake Shala, Lake Chamo, and Lake Awasa. Lake Mweru in Zambia, Lake Magadi in Kenya. North and Central America. The Valley of Mexico. In pre-Columbian times, the valley was substantially covered with 5 lakes, including Lake Texcoco, Lake Xochimilco, and Lake Chalco. Guzman Basin, in northern Mexico and the southwestern United States. The Mimbres River of New Mexico drains into this basin. Lago de Atitlan, in the highlands of Guatemala. Lago de Coatepec, El Salvador. Bolson de Mapimi, in northern Mexico. Wilcox Playa of southern Arizona. The Great Basin, which covers much of Nevada, Oregon and Utah, is a large region of contiguous closed basins, including Great Salt Lake in Utah, the largest terminal lake in the Western Hemisphere, the Black Rock Desert in Nevada, location of the Thrust 2 and Thrust SSC land speed record runs, and the annual home to the Burning Man Festival. Death Valley, the lowest land point in the United States. During the Holocene epoch, Lake Manly filled the Death Valley Basin of Inyo County, California. Later, Death Valley had a system of tributary basins. Rogers Dry Lake at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Owens Lake and the Owens River Basin. Mono Lake in California. Groom Dry Lake in Nevada, location of Area 51. Abbott Lake and Summer Lake in Oregon. Goose Lake on the California-Oregon border. Historically it drained into the Pitt River. Agricultural development and irrigation diversions have lowered the lake level so that it no longer drains to the sea. Malheur Lake in Oregon. Warner Valley in Oregon. Alva Desert in Oregon. Salton Sea in California, a lake accidentally recreated in 1905 when irrigation canals ruptured, filling a desert Endorheic basin and recreating an ancient saline sea. Lake Elsinore in California and the San Jacinto River intermittently drains into the Santa Ana River. Sevier Lake in Utah. Pyramid Lake in Nevada, whose drainage basin includes Lake Tahoe. Humboldt Sink and the Humboldt River Basin in Nevada. Carson Sink and the Carson River Basin in Nevada. Walker Lake and the Walker River in Nevada. Tulare Lake in the southern end of the San Joaquin Valley fed by the Kawara and Tule Rivers plus southern distributaries of the Kings. Historically, in very wet years it would drain into the San Joaquin River. Agricultural development and irrigation diversions have left the lake dry. Buena Vista Lake at the southmost end of the San Joaquin Valley fed by the Kern River. Historically, in exceptionally wet years it would drain into Tulare Lake and then into the San Joaquin River. Agricultural development and irrigation diversions have left the lake dry. Crater Lake in Oregon. It is filled directly by rain and snow, and so has very little mineral salt buildup. The Great Divide Basin in Wyoming, a small Endorheic basin that straddles the continental divide of the Americas. Devil's Lake in North Dakota. Devil's Lake in Wisconsin. Tule Lake and the Lost River Basin in California and Oregon. Little Manitou Lake in Saskatchewan. Old Wives Lake on the Laurentian Divide in Saskatchewan. Parkofke Lake on the Laurentian Divide in Alberta. Spotted Lake, Osoyoos, British Columbia, Canada. Frame Lake in Yellowknife, capital of Canada's Northwest Territories. New Mexico has a number of desert Endorheic basins, including the Tularosa Basin, a rift valley. Zuni Salt Lake, Amar, the Mimbres River Basin in Grant County. Lago Enriquillo on the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean Sea. Many small lakes and ponds in North Dakota and the northern Great Plains are endorheic. Some of them have salt encrustations along the shores. Europe, though a large portion of Europe drains to the endorheic Caspian Sea. Europe's wet climate means it contains relatively few terminal lakes itself. Any such basin is likely to continue to fill until it reaches an overflow level, connecting it with an outlet or erodes the barrier blocking its exit. Exceptions include Lake Neusiedl in Austria and Hungary, Lake Trasimeno in Italy, Fucine Lake in Italy, now drained, Lake Valence in Hungary, Lake Prespa between Albania, Greece and the Republic of Macedonia, Rafah-Santurlo, the largest turlo in Ireland, Larkasea in Germany. The Lazuli Plateau in Crete, Greece, is a high endorheic plateau. All these lakes are drained, however, either through man-made canals or via karstic phenomena. Minor endorheic lakes exist throughout the Mediterranean countries of Spain, Italy, Cyprus and Greece. South America: Laguna del Carbon in Gran Bajo de San Julian, Argentina, the lowest point in the western and southern hemispheres. Lake Mar Chiquita in Argentina. The Altiplano includes a number of closed basins such as Poopó Lake, Lake Valencia in Venezuela, Salada Atacama in the Atacama Desert, Chile. Some of the Earth's ancient endorheic systems and lakes include the Black Sea until its merger with the Mediterranean, the Mediterranean Sea itself and all its tributary basins, during its Messinian desiccation as it became disconnected from the Atlantic Ocean, the Orcadian Basin in Scotland during the Devonian period, now identifiable as lacustrine sediments buried around and off the coast. Lake Tanganyika in Africa, currently high enough to connect to rivers entering the sea. Lake Lahontan in North America. Lake Bonneville in North America. Basin was not always endorheic, at times overflowed through Red Rock Pass to the Snake River and the sea. Lake Chuican in North America. Tularosa Basin and Lake Cabeza de Vaca in North America. Basin formerly much larger than at present, including the ancestral Rio Grande north of Texas, feeding a large lake area. Ebro and Duero basins, draining most of northern Spain during the Neogene and perhaps Pliocene. Climate change and erosion of the Catalan coastal mountains, as well as deposition of alluvium in the terminal lake, allowed the Ebro Basin to overflow into the sea during the Middle to Late Miocene.